must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Today in Africa, we see a lot of uprisings, planning for uprisings, plotting for uprisings in several African countries. The events on the African continent, therefore, as predicted much earlier myself, in 2017, I said before 2020, 13 African countries would have undergone either soft regime change, soft coups, or violent regime change through uprising, which now seem to be real. The signs that and symbols that we see are the real symbols and the signs that more is to come against African governments. What do we do then? There is a new method of changing governments strategically placed in the United States of America by George Soros. George Soros funds civil societies, civil disobedience, civil violence in Africa. It is upon you Africans and African heads of state, wherever you are, as you plan to convene next month or before the end of this month in Addis Ababa, to understand the magnitude of this regime change strategy. Many wars are taking place, internal strife, conflicts like the one in Cameroon, Amazonia, like the one in Biafra, Boko Haram, and then in Biafra, like the one in Libya. But the theme is the same. Regime change, uprising. Is it a matter of taking over our resources? You see, the war in Congo has erupted again. Unknown militias have arrived in Congo, restarted the war, and it is going on. All these culminate to one thing. Are we ready to be independent? As I said last week, this week, are people in Africa ready to accept the results of elections? Elections everywhere in Africa are bringing the chaos we see. The people of Africa seem to be divided after elections or before elections. Is Africa ready for elections? Do we need elections in Africa? If so, are we tolerant enough to accept the results? Are we ready? Which method can we use in Africa to make sure that there is hope for the countries and there is hope and the future of Africa is guaranteed? Viewers, the High Court in Malawi today or yesterday was hearing a case when the president had already been sworn in. If the president of Malawi has been sworn in, then the High Court is hearing the case. Is that not a disaster, an accident in waiting? Whether this will make us have a peaceful Africa remains to be seen. And may God help us to build a better Africa. Thank you very much.
In the case of China, small reforms have been going on all the time in the political system. We fix problems here and there. But I said, the problem is the United States. Your political system was a product of pre-industrial era. And I made a forecast. I said, without significant, substantial political reform, my concern is in your next elections, you will produce a leader worse off than George W. Bush.
So then, so it was you, it was not the Russians.
Yeah. So this is the Chinese humble advice we can offer. But China is a civilizational state. I remember when Henry Kissinger wrote his famous book on China, he started with this quote. He said, my goodness, look at this China. It's different. China uses this unique language, which started 3,500 years ago. It's 1,000 years earlier than ancient Greek, 1,500 years earlier than ancient Latin. But these two European languages were dead languages. Chinese are still using the same language. This line of culture and continuation of civilization, uninterrupted. So this is why we have, indeed, for instance, this whole idea of meritocracy. Why I say confident? I said with my debate with Professor Fukuyama, I said, if you look at the top leadership in China, we've just had the party's Congress, minimum requirement, 2 terms of provincial governor or similar position, which means you have to govern at least 100 million people, given the size of China, before you came to one of the top 7 positions, decision-making bodies. I said to Fukuyama, I said, with this Chinese methodology, meritocracy-based system, we can say with certainty, we can improve the system. There are problems, we can fix it. But we will not produce any leaders like George W. Bush. It's way below the Chinese bar. That's my point.
This is Africa Business, where we get to look at the effect of COVID-19 here in Africa and the economies of Africa. And we shall have a special attention to the economy of Kenya and use it as a case study, even as we look at the economies around the African continent. Thank you so much. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and together to have this conversation, I'm joined by Dr. David Matanga from the Political Command Center. Doctor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Miriam.
And then together with Wesonga, I don't know if he's back yet.
Yes, I'm back, Miriam.
Yes, Daniel Wesonga, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, I'll just do a small intro there, and then we can all chip in and give our thoughts on some of these, issues here. So the report prepared by the Labour Ministry and tabled in Parliament on April 28th indicates that all 133,657 lost jobs so far are in the formal sector, and the number excludes employees currently on unpaid leave and those on pay cut. So number one effect we see there that COVID-19 has brought upon us here in Kenya and indeed across the world is an increased number of unemployment. How will that be a problem even past COVID-19, and how can you deal with it right now in the middle of a crisis?
First of all, as the crisis widens, we need to find avenues on how we are going to contain the economic meltdown that is expected. So far, what the Kenya government has done on the economy is to keep us afloat. The concessions that President Uhuru Kenyatta brought in were to keep us afloat, were to keep people floating, to give institutions some breathing space, to give workers hope, to give employees hope, employers and employees hope. But we need concrete measures. For example, what is going to happen to our office blocks when the economy, when COVID-19 is over? Will people come back to work in offices? Remember, it is going to become an endemic. It's not going to go away. It will be like AIDS. AIDS today is endemic. So we must prepare that one angle. How will people adjust after COVID-19? How will the economy look like? How shall we pump our tourism industry, agriculture industry, fishing industry, a transport industry, the air transport, railway, air, all these? How many people will sit in SGR to go to Mombasa? How many? We must look at that because it is going to happen. Whereas there were tickets, everybody was running for a ticket. There might be no people going to Mombasa. There might be no people going on the plane. Planes could be empty all the way to London because London will be changing its rules. How do you come in London with certificates, with what? And when they tell you that once you arrive and there is a slight mistake, you go for 14 days. People will not travel. So money will be less where you are coming and where you are going. So there will be quite a lot of things that will change, especially in Africa and Kenya in particular. How do we build our brand back of tourism at the center of tourism in Africa? It is very important that at this moment we look at how we can build our tourism industry, hotel industry, agriculture industry to export flowers. How many people will want to buy Kenyan flowers? How many people? Given that the threat of COVID, which sticks on the paper, how many hours will it take for Kenyan flowers to stay with plastic and the boxes, to stay in the warehouse before the other workers? What other extra measures? I'm giving an overall thing so that you people can break it down. This is all the economy. Do we touch our economy? We earn money from the sale of flowers, but we might do more in order to export one box of flowers. The European Union might say, we want more fumigation. We want to see the substance you are using. We want to see so many things. So in a nutshell, Miriam, the economy of Kenya will change. How it will change depends on us, on laying down channels where we can solve the hardships coming.
Daniel, the unemployment that we see has been contributed highly with the COVID-19 in the country. How can Kenya deal with that right now and also post-COVID-19?
Yeah, I think for at the moment, we will really have to deal with a hard situation as it is. But going forward, as Dr. Matsanga has put it, the government and all the stakeholders need to come up with measures that will enable save more jobs, really get the economy back on track. I've been of the idea that for those companies that can be able to set up remote servers, those which can allow like banks and other financial institutions, which can allow their staff to work from home, without necessarily moving back to the office, then they can be able to put up such measures. For those ones that are maybe adversely affected, like in the tourism sector and the hotel industry, perhaps now that one, they really have to put up stringent measures to ensure that they adhere to the new rules that have come with the COVID-19 pandemic, so that we ensure that these job losses are maintained at a minimal level. But going forward, I think life has really changed, and it's upon now the people themselves and the government to come up with new inventions to ensure that these great numbers of people that are losing their jobs can get something to do in the long run.
All right, thank you very much. And speaking of which, just adding to what you're saying, that report that was presented by the Labour Ministry that was tabled in Parliament, sometimes late last month, to be specific, on the 28th of April, all these jobs were lost from the formal sector. So as much as the informal sector has not really been affected, it has been affected, but not to the extreme that a lot of people are losing their jobs, and that is what we call the Jua Kali sector. And we see in President Kenyatta a big four agenda. One of those is manufacturing, and of course manufacturing is greatly anchored. The foundations of this is the Jua Kali sector. And so what does this mean then moving forward in terms of building capacity to the the informal sector, which sometimes honestly does not receive a lot of support as it should, and it is the backbone of the manufacturing industry in this country. So what challenge does this now lay on the government, and how perhaps to support this industry moving forward, as we see, as much as it has been affected, but still there's some level of steadfastness in this sector, and how can we build then capacity and enable an enabling environment to this sector that is very important, should President Kenyatta realize the dream of a better manufacturing industry in Kenya moving forward?
I think industries need incentives. We need to inject in incentives. Free loan, interest-free loans, or spread what we call spread the loan. Let's say they can pay after 5 years or 20 years. That is one of the incentives we have to do to our manufacturers. Less than that, it's going to be very difficult. It's a long journey. Because if you don't give incentives to industry, to the manufacturers, they will close. They will close. Remove tariffs. Remove duty. To some extent, you must change holistically. What is going to happen, Miriam, in the post-COVID? Most countries have got to go to command style of industries, command style of economy. The government has to subsidize almost 90% of the goods. The government has to restructure the pricing system. There is not going to be, if you leave it to the individual private sector, people might not be able to afford some commodities. So government has to source in preparation of a post-COVID arrangement of economy. There will be no goods, there will be demand for products that are not available. Remember, all people have been locked down in Europe. People are not working. People are in houses. In America, these are the big economies. China is where everybody is looking at. India is where people are looking to import. Dubai gets its goods from China, rebrands them, then sells them to us. Now, those are things that we must have a committee, let's say economic committee, economic recovery committee, which I see the government is talking about. A member committee of men who know finances, of men who know economy, of men who can put in new ideas inject fresh ideas in the economy of Kenya.
All right, and Daniel, there we see one of the key industries that has been greatly affected in this in the country right now is the transport industry, and in the transport sector, about 90,600 people have been affected following the restrictions of movement out in and out of Nairobi, Mombasa, Kwale, and Kilifi that was announced by President Uhuru Kenyatta with an aim of curbing the spread of COVID-19. So we've seen a lot of people who go get loans from banks and all these financial institutions and the SACCOs and all that to buy a bus and put it on the road for PSV, and all these people who have heavily invested in the public service vehicles, and we've seen transport has really greatly been affected. So as we look at even the frameworks in which the recovery should, first of all, the first question in that, will the transport sector in this country recover? And if there are people somewhere applauding, as Doctor, you've said there, the government has put up a committee to look into recoveries, and should there be a framework for the transport industry in this country to recover? What should this framework look like to enable it to recover? Wesonga.
Yeah, of course, it goes without saying that the transport sector has been one of the most adversely affected sectors of the economy. And if you look at it critically, the transport sector really employs a majority of Kenyans. You understand that before the closing down of Nairobi and other cities that have been affected with the coronavirus, these business people relied on these matatus, the buses, to transport people to and from the major cities in the country. So with the close down of these cities, then they are making great losses. And most people, the employees that work for these companies, are also feeling quite great hit with the closure. So I believe in the long run, we're going to have some reprieve if the country opens up when this pandemic loosens its grip on our economy. But that is going to take some time. And of course, there's a need to have a structure where we will see these industry players coming back on board, but of course as well observing the measures that have been put, the health measures that have been put out there to ensure that we contain the pandemic. So without a vaccine at sight in the near future, then all we have to do is to adapt on how to live with it. And that is why we really, really need to have a well-structured return. And perhaps that might not serve the purpose conclusively, but it will be of great reprieve to all those business people who are dealing in the transport industry.
All right. Okay, thank you there. Doctor, we know that, of course, tourism industry that contributes an approximate of 1.3% of the Kenya's GDP right now is facing very hard time due to all these cancellations and the economies and the lack of tourism from across the globe. And, tourism is a very important sector and industry in this country's economy, and it has greatly been affected. And as we speak right now, about 300,000 workers in the tourism sector have been sent on unpaid leave since the beginning of last month, and could lose their jobs if the situation does not improve by June. So the hospitality industry, specifically the meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibition, because it's a whole, it has different facets on it, has also taken a hit because of travel cancellation as well as the ban on public gatherings. This is another industry that I would dare ask the same question. Can it recover? And if so, how long will it take for the tourism industry to recover? Because right now we're just making predictions, perhaps by the end of June, perhaps by the end of, but we can't really talk on totality because we really don't know when the COVID-19 will end, and if at all it will end completely. And so what are we looking at? Is the tourism industry in this country future bleak? Doctor.
Miriam, to be very honest, it is going to take a long time for this industry to come back when an ordinary Kenyan will pick a plane to say, I'm going to Mombasa for a weekend. First of all, the logistics of travel alone you carry your blanket to cover on the seat? Are you imagining what is going to happen after the first opening up of airspace? The people going to the plane are going to do very queer things, very different things. Some will carry their bed sheets to sit with them so that it doesn't touch anybody. So if you look at that, Miriam, the involvement of all this, the fear, the scare of when you reach the hotel, you want to know who was there, who might have touched here. Do you sit at the reception? How do you book your room? How do you sleep on a bed that you have not made? Okay? You don't know which part you sanitize. All these are going to be which part of the hotel, the toilet or what, or the window or the door. You might sanitize that, but the man might have touched the cupboard and the left. So
yes. But right now, I think hotels are also advised to fumigate their premises. So I'm expecting that will be a standard moving forward.
You are right. Hotels are advised to fumigate.
Yes.
Several occasions I've seen you cleaning the desk. Again, after our morning cleaner has done it, you do it again yourself. I've seen you several times.
I don't come without touching sanitizer.
Not those days when there were no sanitizers.
Yes.
You still have to clean the place before you.
Yes.
Most of us, 3/4 of us, have a problem of now not just coming and sitting on the chair. Mm-hmm. So there is that thing, I don't know whether we're speaking.
Yes.
There is that fear.
Mm-hmm.
What substance are you going to catch?
Paranoia, even.
Yes. So that will let down the hotels. 2, hotels in Kenya rely on foreign guests. We have not developed our internal tourism. Mm-hmm. Zimbabwe, the hotels every weekend are full because there are so many places in Zimbabwe you can go to. For example, if you went to Victoria Falls, you may not find any accommodation over the weekend. Why? Zimbabweans themselves have filled the hotel. They have that thing of traveling and going to see. We don't have it. Unless there's a conference, it's when you see everybody. Unless there's Madaraka, when you see the Mombasa is full. But if there is no Madaraka Day celebrations, Mombasa will not be full. So, in these circumstances, Madam, what do? We must rebrand ourselves. We must begin to rebrand Kenya to convince a Muzungu who had seen dead bodies in America lying down of COVID to come and fly up to Mara. It's going to be a long journey. It will take time for people to rebuild confidence in the travel industry first, then the hotel industry second. Someone will say, no, if it's summer, let me stay here. If it's winter, let me stay where I am. With the complications that are coming now, which include documentation, where did you come from? Have you been taken, take a very good example of the industry of Tanzania and the Kenya border. 2 African good countries, all of them black, speak the same language, Swahili. None of them can agree with the other. What about you flying to America? What about an American flying here and then returning to America with that procedure? It is going to take a lot of convincing, and the time has come. We start now to see what we can do, how we shall rebrand the hotels, what concessions can we give. In fact, we might end up giving concessions like the first week free, the second week pay. You come and stay for 1 week free, and then the second week pay. Yeah. That is one of the incentives to pull. Somebody can now in Europe say, there's a good deal there. Sleep for 1 week, eating the food free.
For free? And
yes,
electricity for free for the hot showers?
Yes. William, it is going to happen.
Yes.
Because if you don't change the way you are marketing your hotels, nobody will come.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So according to
people might only come for those animals in Mara the time they are crossing. Even those, the visitors will be very few.
Yes, it will take a while. So according to a report by Kenya Private Sector Alliance, that is KEPSA, most businesses have been disrupted in these various ways. And number one, most companies have asked employees to work from home, thus negatively affecting business in the service sector. And number two, stockouts and delayed deliveries due to the lockdown. Number three, reduced demand for export products, which is very good. I think right now we are beginning to enjoy our own products and services. So on the other hand, it's actually working well for the local industries, all right? And number four, increased cost of goods, which has consequently increased the overall cost of production. And number five, reduced capital flows, restrictions on travel, and reduced staff time. Number six, difficulty in obtaining a credit from financial institutions, as well as reduced ability to meet their loan interest payments. And then number seven, a slowed investment appetite from foreign and local sector. So these are just a few businesses and disruptions that are how businesses have been disrupted in one of these ways. I don't know which one you've picked, Doctor, there that, perhaps.
Yes, Miriam, maybe if you could just chip in. Also, you've mentioned the reduction in demand for export goods. And it's also key to note that essential goods manufacturers in the past few months recorded rises in revenue over the month of March, April, and today now in May. So the largest manufacturer of pharmaceutical products in
We have lost you there a bit.
Wasonga. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so you understand that the government and households have been buying these products out of caution and reaction also. So, and also if you check out the beverage and the beverage sector, people have been really consuming a lot. And those who are working in that sector have been reaping some handsome profit there. But it's also expected that in the long run, there is going to be a reduction because of restricted incomes. Because when people are spending and they are not earning, at a certain point in time, their income will be limited.
Yes.
Yeah, and there's going to be a decline. But at the moment, those are the sectors that are trying to do well despite the hard-biting impacts of the COVID-19 in the economy.
All right, Doctor.
I think it is there are very few options left at the moment. Even to give advice, Miriam, we need to tighten our belts. All of us need to tighten our belts. From every sector, every point of sector. Is that the question you asked? I don't know whether that is the question.
KEPSA noted just a few, ways in which businesses have been disrupted, or a few changes that they've noted here in the country, where now they're saying one of the things they've noted is that the local manufactured products right now are being consumed on a high, because they're not able to import stuff from outside. So I think on the backside of that, it's a good thing now we're able to appreciate our local products here, but also they're saying sometimes even the cost of production has gone up because some raw materials comes from outside the country. But in the food industry especially, the local products there have been, the demand has been high.
What exactly? Local products are being consumed, but they will be consumed and they get finished. Mm-hmm. Then after that, what else? What else? You where after all these months, everybody is rushing to where this thing is. We shall end up getting low grade goods, half products. We might get a very bad products that can bring more chaos for this region. Mm-hmm. For example, now, look at the masks. It is only China producing masks. China has 1,000 factories producing masks only, 1,000. And each factory in a day could be producing like 1 million masks. So it is a competition, and as soon as it produces it, it is taken by America. It's taken by this Russia. Now Russia, the thing is heavy in Russia, Iran, all these places. In all this discussion, nobody has talked about Iran. By the way, mm-hmm. I have not heard anything. Iran figures are really worrying. Mm-hmm. Nobody has talked about it. As if the world forgot everything about Iran. Mm-hmm. But that is another business for another day. But if you look at those, the products will get finished, mm-hmm. get consumed. The local industry, how many of these people in the local industry can constantly sustain the purchase of that product? It's also very important. Remember, money is going to be very scarce.
All right.
You might end up, if you overbuy, if you overproduce, you might end up with selling your product at a very low cost. Mm-hmm. Because there will be nobody to buy. There will be nobody to buy. There will be no money. If there's no money, how can purchasing power is low, the goods accumulate in the warehouse? Mm-hmm. That is also another thing you should look at. Don't only look at the shortage. There might be no shortage. For example, oil, the price of oil has slumped. Mm-hmm. Some petrol stations will call you at home. In some countries, can we sell you? Can you come and refill your car at my petrol station?
But my car is not going to work. I don't use my car anymore. All right.
Have I fitted in nicely?
Yes, you have.
I think you brought in a very valid point. And maybe just if I could add on that, it's a very high time now where the government, those economic advisors, need to come up with the capacity building to ensure that we do not face such kind of challenges when times come. Because when you read, Miriam, when you read the story of Malaysia and Singapore, around 1968, from 1961 to 1968, when they were charting their own destiny. These were countries that never had any natural resources and are being faced by the current threat of withdrawal of the British superpower at that time, which had offered a lot of their citizens employment And now these people were going to lose jobs, and the countries never had any formidable resource to derive incomes from. So they were pushed in a corner where they had to invent and build capacities where they were able to create jobs for their people and really drive the economy to the global arena. So I do believe that with good planning and capacity building, then we can be able to bring an manufacturing incentive, as Dr. Matsanga said, so that more industries will find a reason to pitch camp into this country and be able to employ a majority of people that have lost jobs through both the formal and informal sectors. So something very important is to change the mindset of the people, to make them be empowered in terms of efficiency. Because at this time, you realize that much does not depend on time that time duration that people are performing their duties, because most people are not reporting at work, but much will depend on efficiency. So those are just some of the of the issues that they should look at. And also remember, they say that necessity is the mother of invention. So whenever we will be faced by that necessity, we are not producing enough food, we are not having enough medical equipment, at that point is when they should come on board and be able to invent more better ways to bridge that gap that we'll be facing at that time.
All right, thank you so much. And of course, we're looking at Africa business, and we seem to be done with that. And Doctor, before we say our goodbyes, I happened to sneak in just a few African news stories. Yesterday we didn't do any, and today I think there are matters we should talk about. Like Burundi today has gone out to its polling, and the polling stations in Burundi opened at 6 a.m. local time, with around 5 million voters expected to participate in the general elections. Voters will be electing their president, members of parliament, and communal council members. Now, 7 candidates are seeking to replace the long-serving President Pierre Nkurunziza, with the main contenders being Agathon Rwasa of the opposition and Evariste Ndayishimiye from the ruling party there. And to note something there that happened in Burundi, social media platforms have become inaccessible in Burundi as voting kicked off across the East African country today. Doctor.
They are holding what? An election?
Yes.
Surely? Mm-hmm. That is bloodshed. That's bloodshed. Mm-hmm. That's all I can say. Don't say much. Mm-hmm. That's it. Leave it. You know, the winner. Who is the winner in the COVID-19? What election? What results are you going to announce? To who? Who is going to accept those results? It's a sad thing for these countries, Miriam, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. That is what has happened in Burundi. French are behind Nkurunziza and Tanzania to dismember this region. So let's leave it to go that way. Mm-hmm. There can't be results. In what results, surely?
And social media, all social media has been closed. There you cannot access Facebook, you cannot access Twitter, none.
That guy just wanted power to change quietly, and he becomes a paramount chief, paramount leader. So he got it legitimized by a fake election during COVID-19. How can you call that an election? You are Pan-Africa.
All right, Daniel, do you?
Yeah, I think it's very unfortunate that President Nkurunziza and his cronies had to call an election at this precarious period in time. And perhaps that shows that this kind of leadership does not have any regard, neither does it have any interest of the people of Burundi at heart. All they are concerned for is allocation of power. And as Dr. Matsanga says, as the conditions are today, then that is a very flawed process. It's probably it's going to be contested and maybe perhaps plunge the country into unprecedented period of chaos in the days to come. So if they were wise enough, they would have postponed these elections and maybe given people a break to combat the COVID-19 first before they can take the country into the political mood. But bottom line is, it is wrong in its timing, whichever way you chop it.
All right. And thank you very much there. So, Doctor, this story we've been following over the weekend from last week. Zimbabwe's Justice Minister has now threatened to prosecute the 3 female opposition members who alleged they were arrested and then abducted from police custody and sexually assaulted. They say they were beaten and forced to drink each other's urine. The 3, including an MP, are being treated in a hospital for their injuries. Justice Minister Ziyambi said the women made up the story to divert attention from the fact that they broke lockdown rules by attending a protest. Doctor, you predicted this.
I have been there. I've seen.
No, so these women, the opposition, the ones you're saying in Zimbabwe that they abducted themselves. Now the Justice Minister is actually saying they made up the story. They were not abducted.
Yes, I told you. It's a fake story. They were abducted by their own people to put it on government. It's not the police, not the Zimbabwe police abducting them. I'm telling you, that is what happens in a guerrilla warfare. I am a guerrilla warfare commander myself, so I know what takes place. I used to be, not I am now. I used to be. There is a time in northern Uganda when we were doing the Uganda peace process, when President Museveni dressed people in clothes, the uniform of the LRA to go and finish people. So we captured them, the peacekeepers, who were brought by the men in Yei, arrested them. They are not LRA. So these things do happen in a war. What they are doing in Zimbabwe is MDC is eating their own people in order to damage the name of the government. Because anytime now in Africa, anywhere in the world, when you talk about Zimbabwe, everybody will say it's a very bad place. So there is nobody on Zimbabwe side. Zimbabweans have to pull out and do a lot of international PR. If they don't do the PR, they are lost. They will be taken down very badly. Mm-hmm. That's all I can tell you.
Okay.
Now you see, the minister is asking these women, where were you? Who abducted you? Which cell were you in? Which police station were you in? The women cannot tell because they were not in a police cell. They were not. Mm-hmm. You will see it. Already the MDC is up in arms telling America to tighten even sanctions because of this human rights abuse. Telling Britain that don't give Mnangagwa any penny. It's being used politically. Mm-hmm. So there we are. That's what we are.
All right. And in Rwanda, perhaps, Daniel, you react to this story. The eldest son of Rwanda's President Paul Kagame has been appointed to the board of a government agency that oversees business registration and tourism. His name is Ivan. Ivan Kagame's appointment to the Rwanda Development Board was announced by the Prime Minister's office on Monday. The board was responsible for the signing of multi-million-dollar sponsorship deals with top European football clubs, Arsenal and Paris Saint-Germain, to promote tourism in the East African nation. The 30-year-old Ivan Kagame is rarely seen in social media and has so far avoided dabbling in politics. He holds a business degree from an American university. Paul Kagame there, appointing his own son. Nepotism, or just his son is just incompetent more than other Rwandese? What is happening? Or he's just grooming him? He's grooming him to take over.
I think that has been a deep-rooted malady in the leadership of many African presidents and head of states. We've had scenarios where presidents and former presidents have appointed key members of their family to lucrative positions in government. And that now goes back to the question of competence and credibility. Really, some serious homework has to be done there to prove whether the son was up to the task and if he duly was qualified to take up that mandate. But politics is all a perception, and the perception that such kind of an appointment sends out there is that maybe President Kagame is indulging in some kind of nepotism. So that is what the Rwandese national will see. That is what we who are observing from out here will see, because the fact that he's the son to the president. But also, I think we also need to look at it at the angle of qualification and the credibility of the entire process. So I'll tend to take a middle ground there, unless Dr. Matsanga has a comment on that also.
Of course, Doctor. Is Kagame grooming his son to succeed?
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes, the son is a Rwandese. So where do you want him to go and get a job?
30-year-old.
Even if it was me, I would appoint Pade or Ephraim or Alex first.
Okay, so we shall promote nepotism.
Let's be very honest. I can't leave my son. He has started with a degree, master's, or he has got a PhD. Then go and tell him to look for a job in Ukraine. How? I give my son first.
Yeah, and I think, Miriam, also a lot goes to the question of the son really making a future for himself. So perhaps, as I said earlier, if he's competent enough and perhaps he wishes to leave, to walk out of the shadow of his father, then he has every right to do so. And so long as the process was competitive and yeah.
No, that is straight up nepotism. And there was no, in Rwanda, there's no process that is...
Yes, lady and the gentleman. Kagame has not put his son in the army.
Like Museveni.
Like President Museveni. Kagame has appointed his son in tourism.
Same difference.
In business. There's no difference. There's a very big difference here. If he had appointed his son director of intelligence, then there now we can condemn Mr. Kagame. But he has put him in tourism. The guy studied and got master's degree. What do you want him to do? To sit and beg the father for some money? Yesterday, President Museveni was telling me his salary is 3.6 million. I was shocked.
Whose salary?
Yes.
Whose salary?
President Museveni's salary.
It's over 3 million.
It's 3.6 million Uganda money.
Oh, Uganda shillings, not the Kenya. Okay.
Yes. Which is about 900,000.
So our president is overpaid here.
Which is about 900,000 Kenya shillings.
Okay.
A million. No. It's about 300,000 Kenya shillings, Jermaine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Only. I was shocked when my president yesterday said he gets a salary of 3.6 million Uganda money. What?
Okay.
Mr. President, this is not very good. That's why there is a lot of stealing.
But other incentives come there. There are other
No, the president should be well.
The allowances, you could be shocked how much they amount to.
Maybe they give him package allowances and so on. Fine. He didn't. But if I were in parliament, I would insist that my president must be well paid so that he's able to buy his things, also look nice, like he is. I like the way he looks with good shirts. I'm very happy because those are the type of shirts Matanga wears. We are together on that. But our president is badly off. He's badly paid.
But he's not complaining with all those cows.
No, we have to complain as nationals. Where does the money come from that with that lifestyle?
I want to see the allowances, and then now we can have this conversation. The allowances that he's getting outside of, the salary.
So it has come from the word of Kagame employing
the son.
The son. The son cannot sit and eat sausage, morning, lunch, lolo, here, lolo. Let's go and play tennis, walk. Let's walk, come and sleep. No. A human being cannot do that. The son now decided he has to go and look for his wrong. He might be having girlfriends who need cash. And sons to come to you to ask for money to take your girlfriend at the weekend. You can tell from the way he comes in the chair to sit down. Hey, Dad, how are you? Hey, I've not seen you since morning. You just tell him, come to the point, my friend. You want money. So, we parents, I am a parent, and I've been asked money by my daughters. Oh, I'm going, today we have a disco. I'm going to the club, Dad. Then first of all, will you drive me there? I say, just be honest. Say, you want money? I'll give you money, give you the cab money. You go.
Or just approach them as the board of government
children don't want that way. That's why maybe Kagame has said, let me get you a job, learn how to use your money which you earn per day, per month.
And then in the meantime, I'll start grooming you to take over once I'm done with Rwanda.
You are
Miriam.
There is one problem I have.
Yes.
People getting annoyed because President Museveni is grooming his son to take over. What's wrong with that? The son is a Ugandan.
What is wrong with that is in the manner in which it has been done.
Let's put their election. Let's see whether the son can sell the party like the father used to sell. Tutamkonga na kura. Where? I don't know why Ugandans are making noise. Oh, President Museveni is putting his son. The son is a Ugandan. Allow him to stand in an election. Whether he will win that election, I swear it could be very complicated. So why are people making a lot? For me now, having studied these books and exposed myself internationally with 34 years of seeing everything, I don't want to speak cheaply. That I stop Kalonzo's son from being appointed. I stop Raila's brother. Doesn't Raila's brother have his stomach? Do they share? No, let me ask. Is Oburu's stomach joined with the Tinga? When Tinga is hammering his food, does he share it with a pipe that goes to Oburu?
When Tinga is hammering his food in Canada.
And also, Miriam, you have to look at it from this aspect also. We've had sons of prominent, even here in Kenya, prominent politicians who do not have any formal employment, any known source of income. But when you go to their bank accounts, there's a lot of stolen money there. They are always doing shady deals. So it's better to give him a very formal employment in government, a known source of income, other than those ones who work sanctimonious and hide a bit with a fake tag of integrity, but behind the scenes, they are using their children and wives to loot the public coffers. So,
all right.
To me, that's how I.
Okay, thank you very much.
Let me tell you, someone is saying to be appointed to the board of governors, the board is just by appointment. You don't need to go for interview. So that answers Mr. Bismarck Kabura. These are the people of Africans who say Museveni's son should not be. He's a Ugandan. Allow him to stand in an election. He might not be as charismatic as his father. Tunampatia hapo, tunamgonga kwa kura. What's wrong? Why are you worried? He has not taken over government by gun. No, he's saying if he is brought as a candidate, you organize your party and we go and vote peacefully and reject him. And that's it. Don't discriminate him. Oh, he's not he's Museveni. So what? You did not want Museveni to produce. Or you did not want Matanga. Even me, if I were in a ministry in Uganda, I would even bring my son to be the PA. Because he will hide a few things of my problem.
Corruption.
He will not tell me.
That is a form of corruption.
No.
That is a form of corruption.
He will not tell the public that daddy was sleeping.
Okay. See now.
No, I'm not talking about my children. I've taught them never to steal.
I'm saying if you want to aid in hiding the bad habits, that is a form of corruption, according to World Corruption Index.
While you are tired.
Doctor.
I am not corrupted.
I know. I'm just joking.
There is nothing wrong, Jamen, in a nutshell.
With Paul Kagame appointing his son to the.
There's nothing wrong.
Okay.
Let's educate our people on social media. Hakuna kitu ubaya.
Okay. So
hakuna ubaya wote. The Kagame can appoint anybody, as long as he's a Rwandese.
Okay. All right. So still in Rwanda, or a Rwandan businessman, Mr. Felician Kabuga, was arraigned in a court under heavy police protection. So that is, of course, a story we are following, and we shall bring you the latest as we continue to receive them. And also in Namibia, Doctor, Namibians now are now better behaved thanks to a ban on the sale of alcohol during the state of emergency. The police chief is saying now, and he's encouraging, the government to perhaps increase the price of alcohol. I don't know what behavior and alcohol has to do with anything, because I know people who drink but are quite well behaved, so I don't know. But according to now the observation there, the police chief is saying, they're saying Namibians are now very well behaved because after the ban on the sale of alcohol.
Yeah. Why do you sell alcohol when there's a ban? Why?
So they're saying, because it has been banned during this time of COVID-19, the police have not been having any problems with the people there. They have been well behaved, yes.
Of course. Namibians are very few, and they are well behaved.
Okay.
Namibians are like Norwegians. In Norway, they can sentence you and you choose the date when you go to prison.
Even the US, I think they do that.
You can go back and take Miriam for a flight for where, Seychelles, your wife. While you are there, you tell her that we have dates on 22nd of March.
That's really work in Kenya.
I'm going to.
In Kenya, it can what?
I am going to start my sentence in jail.
After COVID-19.
How many of you will not grow thin?
You make a plan. I know even in the US, that's what they do. In the US, that's what they do, yes.
Because the population of Norway is 4 million people. Not Norway, it's 4 million. So they know everybody. But Kenya here, if you give a person to say, we sentence you later, you go to jail later,
You'll never see them.
You'll find a way to be in Johannesburg.
Absolutely. They'll buy a new ID, they'll change their passport number, name, and you'll never see them again. And speaking of which, yes.
Maybe I'm telling you about this.
But that will not work here. That is the truth.
Tell me how you deal with your husband, and he is telling you that next Monday is the start of the. You can't even enjoy the holiday. That is a mourning period where you have to sit down and mourn together with Papa because it's departing on Monday.
Okay, so I think depends. What did he do to take him to jail? I think that will depend.
Okay, can I tell you a friend of mine in Uganda?
If he stole, if he what, I don't care. You go serve your time and then come back.
A Ugandan friend of mine, just a quick story, half a minute, 1 minute. A Ugandan friend of mine went to Uganda and said he was sick, so he was not able to come for the case of an insurance where he had actually claimed an insurance defrauding an insurance company in Norway.
A thief.
So what they did, the insurance company, instead of saying we admit, they paid a man to go to Kampala and to bring the evidence. Now, when he went to court, they said you have been convicted, but you will serve your sentence in 20. By then it was in 1992. Hey, the guy came to London to tell us he's here, but in 1992 he has to report to serve a sentence. So everybody in that meeting in London was saying, are you stupid? Why don't you just go home? By then, 1992, there was no DNA. Because anybody now in Europe, if you live there, they take your DNA through the saliva. So they know whom they have arrested. They can't say we have arrested Wesonga when they needed Stephen. As soon as you step out of the car, they know you are Mr. Wesonga. When you reach the police station, they bring out the thing is saying in the computer. That's the one. Like it is, yo. So this guy, that's what happens in Norway. We encouraged him to go back and serve the 70 months, which will serve 3 and get out.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
And,
so Norway is a very good country, but they are very bad at selling oil in Somalia.
Somalia, all right. And another story that we've been following in Lesotho, the Prime Minister of Lesotho has formally resigned following a scandal in which he was accused of involvement in the killing of his estranged wife, Thomas Tambane, told a national television audience that although he had not completed his work, he was retiring from what he described as the great theatre of action. He had for months refused to step down. So finally, Lesotho's Prime Minister there has resigned, and that's it.
He did a very good quote. I can recite what he said. He said, the short man, you remember that short man who uses another stool in order to go into the V8? He's a very short guy.
You can criticize nature. He didn't choose to be short, so we can't use that against him.
No, I'm just reminding you,
Yes.
when he came to State House, they had to get another chair for him to stand up in order to enter the house.
Yes.
Please. So today, the man quoted very nicely. You know what he said?
What did he say?
The world is a stage where you come and take part in action. You take action, you do some things. You elected me as your prime minister, but I've not been able to finish my mandate. And therefore, I'm coming back to you to tell you that the world is a stage. As Shakespeare said, you come, you play, you go. Today, I am handing in my resignation, and I will support my predecessor. Oh, no, my successor. I heard him say that. I said, hey, well, that's a democracy. Hapa Nairobi, you have Mr. Nero, Emperor Nero. Emperor Nero is dangerous, dividing. He doesn't like to listen to the father of the kingdom, who is President Uhuru Kenyatta. They want to slaughter the president when he's still on his seat. These are things that are very, and by the way, characteristically, Emperor Nero, hey, that is the man. You see the picture there?
Steve had...
Guy. I like Stephen for looking for those pictures. So, I want you today, as your assignment, Miriam, when you go back home and with Songa, to read Emperor Nero, the Roman Emperor. Nero. That's it. Thank you very much. Roman Emperor Nero, the man who turned on his own mother, cut the mother. So thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
Analyst, is there anything left? Miriam? You know, Miriam can't hear now.
Oh, no, I can hear. No, we are done, and thank you so much. It has been such a long day. I think I'm hungry. About a few minutes to two. I need to go have my lunch. Thank you so much, our viewers. Thank you so much, Doctor. And yes.
Why don't you also value for us that we also
I can feel mine is ready. So I don't know if yours is ready, Doctor. My lunch, it's calling me. My lunch is calling me, so I have to respond.
To tell all of us that I think, gentlemen,
yes,
you are hungry like I am hungry.
Anatetea maslahi yake peke yake.
I know Songa is a single person. I don't know if yours is lunch ready, Doctor. I don't know if you'll, but I know mine is ready. I can.
Miriam, now you can imagine how tough the situation is here.
Yeah, well, microwave. That's why they made microwave. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you so much, our viewers. We'll see you again here tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching us since morning, 9 a.m. and then until now, Doctor. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, I am always as I am, as I will be, as I have been. Who said those words? Have a nice day, all of you. Let me go back to my loneliness. May God help me. Thank you.
He will. He will help you.
Doug.
Bye, Daniel.